Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Today's episode is brought to you by Jen and Juice Coaching by yours truly. For the past 5 years, I've worked with over 100 people to help them feel, less stuck. Whether you're looking to change careers, start a side hustle, or just get a strategy for your life, head on over to jenglantz.com/coaching and you can find out about my 1-hour coaching specials that will help you feel like you can finally cross those things off your to-do list and start whatever kind of project, life change, or dream that you have. Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back at it with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. I am feeling so overwhelmingly grateful to be inside of your earlobes right now, so I just want to thank you for listening to the show, for sharing the show with your friends, and for coming back week after week. I promise, I'm almost 3 years into podcasting, and I'm still promising that I'm going to bring you value every time you press play, and I'm going to make sure of that. I work super hard to source the guests, to figure out the topics, and to talk to people inside of the You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group to really find out what the heck is going on and what we can talk about to make life feel a little bit easier, to give it more purpose, and to remind you that you're not getting any younger. So, you fill in the blank for that one. Today's episode is a pick me up episode, so we're going to actually cover 3 questions that were sent in by listeners of this show. And if you want to send in a question for March's episode, go to speakpipe.com/Jen Glantz. I'm going to link it below and submit your voicemail, send your question there, and I will answer it on a March episode of the Pick Me Up series of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. But the 3 questions for this week are a little bit different. Each one has a different theme to it, but they all sort of tie into something. An uneasiness, an unhappiness that we might feel within ourselves. So I'm going to go through each question. I'm going to read the question to you, and then I'm going to talk through my response, what kind of advice I would share with these people. And as you're listening, I'm curious to know what you would tell them. So send me a DM on Instagram at Jen Glantz, hit me up in the You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, or enter my inbox and say hello. My email is jenglantz@gmail.com. I will write back to you. I love getting messages. I used to love getting mail in the mailbox. Now I forget to check the mailbox, but I will check my email multiple times every hour on the hour. So send me an email and I will respond back to you. Question number 1 comes from Kim. Kim says, "Hey Jen, I can't stop feeling super jealous of the people around me. It's not even on Instagram because I know that what people are posting is just a fake version of their life, but it's people in real life that I am jealous of. I find myself super jealous of coworkers, of best friends, even of family members who have big accomplishments or are just doing something cool. I can't find any happiness for them because I can't stop thinking, why not me? I know it sounds selfish to admit, but everything comes back to me and the fact that everyone seems to be living their life a whole lot more than I am, and I'm just feeling down and feeling jealous. Jen, help me pick me up." Kim, I think that is one of the most relatable yet hard things for us to confess. The word jealousy and the feeling of jealousness that we might have for other people. Oftentimes when we feel jealous, we try not to let it surface, we try not to let it show, and we try not to admit it. Jealousy comes out in many different forms, from anger to avoidance to just a feeling of being down for ourselves. But what I want you to think about is not these other people and their accomplishments and their successes, but I want you to think about you. What's going on? What's missing? What do you adore? And I mean that because we have more space within us ourselves to feel jealous when we don't understand where we're at. We don't understand ourselves, our values. So I want you to turn inside. And I want you to think about a couple of different things, Kim. First of all, I want you to think about what in your life you're happy about. And by the way, that list doesn't need to have gigantic accomplishments, large pieces of success. That can just be that you are happy that you get dollar pizza on Friday. You are happy that you've learned to create really cool flower arrangements from Trader Joe's flowers. That happiness might mean that you're loving the Netflix show you're binging. And why I'm asking you to put together this list of happiness, even though that what's on that list might feel semi-lame, is because we have to start taking accountability for what we have in our lives. And we will not do that. And we will not do that properly if we do not do that often. So Kim, I'm challenging you to try this every single day for a week. I want you to write down something that you're happy about, you're grateful for, something that you are proud of. And at the end of the week, that list might surprise you. It might make you laugh, but it will remind you what you have. Now, with that list, and in addition to that list, they also want you to take some inventory on the things that bug you. What's missing from your life? What do you want more of? What do you crave? What are you actually jealous of? Because even though your cousin might have gotten a promotion working at their job, it doesn't mean that you're jealous of that job. But it does mean that maybe you're jealous of an acknowledgement they got at work that you did not. So I want you to pick apart what you feel is missing in your life. Pick apart the jealousy so that you get to the root of what is really bothering you. Oftentimes we use words like jealousy to cover up so many parts of us that are broken or missing or just pointing in a different direction. So I challenge you to do this inventory for 1 week of the things that make you happy, the things that are going well in your life, and the things that are missing, the things that you lack. And when you do that, maybe you will shift this feeling of jealousy to appreciation, but also to figuring out what you need to be more active in your own life to do. And I think when we start to turn those feelings on ourselves, we realize that it's not about the other people and what they have. It's about what we're confused with in our own lives. Confusion will lead to jealousy, but figuring out all of these things will allow us to not only approach our feelings about people in a different way, but to approach how we feel about ourselves in a completely new light. And that is what you need to work on. Question number 2 comes from Matt. Matt says, "Hey Jen, I'm going to keep it simple, but I need this pick-me-up because I am 5 years in a job that I despise. And every time I go to apply for a new job or consider leaving, something happens. First, it was that my wife got pregnant and I didn't think I could leave this job. And now we're in a pandemic. What do I do? Pick me up." Dear Matt, you are certainly not alone. I can't tell you how many people listening to the show right now are working a job that brings them down, that truthfully they can't stand, that when they wake up in the morning and actually have to figure out how to get prepared for work, they just crumble. So I want you to be realistic about this. And you all will never hear me give advice that says quit your job and figure it out. I don't work like that. We all have bills to pay. We don't want to take risk like that. But I do advise you, when there are external things happening in your life that delay a change, to figure out other ways to prioritize that change the best you can. Because here's the thing, there will always be something out there that gets us to stop doing what we want to do if what we want to do is scary or a big change or risky. So we either have to let those moments play out, and those moments could last a lifetime, or we have to say, okay, how do we figure out how to prioritize this change even with the chaotic parts of our lives that are still going on? So maybe that's right now for you, not dropping into the excuse of, oh, it's a pandemic, but instead thinking about, okay, what assets do I have that if I wanted to apply for jobs, I'd be ready? Because for a lot of people, getting the resume, getting the cover letter, updating the LinkedIn, that takes months. So can we start with that? Maybe it's figuring out what that next step is for you and starting to get that process rolling. But what I am saying is, even if right now doesn't feel like the right time for whatever reason, it is the right time to get those things in motion so that when time does slow down, when your life goes back to a little bit more of normalcy, you're going to be ready. You're going to be prepared. So if you're listening to this and you are in a job that you absolutely despise, take all of the things that are keeping you there, all of those things you're scared about changing, all of that risk, and rather than just leaving the job, figure out what you can do now to get change in motion, because these things take a long time. So start now, because you're not getting any younger, and you don't deserve 5 more years to go by with this job misery. Question number 3 comes from Fiona. Dear Jen, pick me up and tell me what else to do, because I simply cannot watch another episode of a TV show. I have binged them all, and I don't want that to be my fun fact that I spent the pandemic watching too much TV. Pick me up, help me out, what do I do? Fiona, isn't that something? You know, a lot of my friends and also Adam's friends will joke about this, that pre-pandemic, Adam and I did not watch TV. But even before we met, we both weren't big TV watchers. And now that the pandemic happens, we're jumping into all these conversations about shows and we have all these recommendations. And both of our friends are like, what is going on? You two were never TV watchers and now you can keep up with these shows. So we've gotten into that habit as well, where we'll binge a show and that's all we do in every waking free hour that we have. But I can't help feel this sense of annoyance and regret at myself when I'm binging these shows constantly. And a lot of that feeling is that, yeah, I could be using this time for other things, but I simply don't know what those other things are. So I want you to think about this. If you had more free time, which you will when you stop watching all of these shows, what would you want to do with it? And start small. You don't have to think about these gigantic things you want to do, but start with small projects. Maybe it's things around your house. Maybe it's organizing the closet. Maybe it's putting up wallpaper in a room. Maybe it's just little things. Maybe it's reading a book a week challenge. But what are the things that you would do if you had more free time? And once you have a list like that, maybe over time you get it to 20 and 25. Every time you're about to watch a show and you're not feeling like that's the best way to use your time, you have a list already with you. And if you're not sure what to put on that list of how to use that free time, ask your friends. Maybe post a poll on Instagram or group checks a bunch of friends and ask them what other things they're doing to spend some free time at home that doesn't include watching TV. But I'm not saying kick TV totally, right? Because the art of watching TV sometimes will help us relax, will help us feel good. So don't feel like you absolutely have to stop, but maybe start to track your time and see how long you are watching TV every single week and cut it in half or cut it down by a third and use that quality time for anything, for something else. Because when you do anything else with that time, you use other parts of our brain, and that's always important, always critical, and might make you feel a new sense of love for your life and your time at home. Thank you to Kim, to Matt, to Fiona for submitting their Pick Me Up questions of the month. I hope this advice was useful to all of you. I'll be back next week with another Pick Me Up episode. But until then, make sure you subscribe, you rate, you review the podcast, share it with friends, tag it on Instagram. All of your support is tremendous to me. I'll be back next week with a guest, with an episode where I interview one of my friends and don't tell them what the topic is. And wow, you are going to love this guest. Until next time, all my love, Jen Glantz. Hey you! Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.